The sky above Kethera, 9 burned with streaks of emerald fire as plasma bolts tore through the air. The planet had been under siege for 36 rotations. Its alien defenders, the proud Varellan, fought desperately against the invading Drask Syndicate, a merciless coalition that enslaved entire species. And somewhere in the chaos, deep in the crumbling citadel of Vorin Keep, a single human knelt beside a shattered power core, hands blackened with soot and blood. Lieutenant Mason Hale was no hero. He was an engineer, or at least that's what he used to be before the Earth Expeditionary Corps sent him across the stars as a technical observer. What they hadn't told him was that observation would mean surviving a full-scale war. He wiped grime from his visor, eyes scanning the flickering reactor panel. "If I don't fix this," he muttered, "the whole shield grid collapses and we're done." Behind him, a voice hissed in irritation, elegant but sharp, like metal scraping stone. "You humans and your overconfidence." He turned. A tall figure stood in the smoke, armored in silver plates that shimmered faintly with organic light. Her violet eyes glowed faintly beneath a combat visor. She was Saren of Varela, commander of the Citadel Defense, and daughter of the Varellan High Matriarch herself. Mason frowned. "You're bleeding." Saren ignored him, her translucent blue blood dripping from a crack in her armor. "You're wasting time. The Drask will breach the inner gate in minutes." "I can buy us hours," he said, tapping the console. "But I need a functioning converter coil." She scoffed. "Those are vaporized." Mason's mouth tightened. "Then we'll make one." Saren blinked, her mandible-like facial fins twitching in disbelief. "You can't fabricate an energy converter with your bare hands, human." He gave a dry smile. "Watch me." She didn't know what to make of him. This strange, fragile mammal with scarred hands and a soft voice. Humans were new to the galactic stage, often underestimated, dismissed as primitive. But there was something unsettling about the way Mason worked. Relentless, intuitive, improvising with scraps of metal and circuitry that should never have functioned together. Saren watched him for several long minutes as plasma fire thundered outside. His fingers moved with purpose, his breathing steady even as alarms wailed. "You fight with tools," she murmured. "It's what we do," he replied without looking up. When he finished, the reactor hummed weakly back to life. The shield grid flickered, then solidified, wrapping the Citadel in a trembling dome of light. For a heartbeat, the war outside seemed distant. Saren looked at him, really looked. "You did it," she said softly. He shrugged. "Just patched a few holes." But when she turned back to the viewport, she found herself staring, not at the battle, but at the human beside her. And for the first time in her life, she was silent. Hours passed. The Drask bombardment continued, but the shield held. Mason had collapsed against the bulkhead, exhaustion catching up with him. Saren stood nearby, watching him through the dim light of the control room. Her people, the Varellans, prided themselves on logic and precision. Emotion was inefficient, yet something about the human gnawed at her composure. He had defied physics, command structure, even common sense, and it had worked. When he stirred awake, she spoke. "You risked your life for people not of your world." He rubbed his eyes. So why?" she pressed. "You owe us nothing." Mason exhaled slowly. "Where I'm from, you don't need to owe someone to help them. You just do it because it's right." Her fins trembled. "That's illogical." "Yeah," he said with a tired grin. "That's humanity for you." She found herself almost smiling, an alien gesture she hadn't made in years. Then came the alarm. The shield was holding, but the Drask had changed tactics. Dropships descended through the upper atmosphere, targeting the generator room directly. Saren barked an order into her comms, rallying her remaining guards. "Mason," she said, drawing her plasma spear. "You stay here." He stood, shaking his head. "I'm coming with you. You're an engineer." "And you're bleeding," he countered. For a moment, they locked eyes, human defiance meeting alien pride. Then, with a faint sigh that sounded almost like respect, she nodded. Together, they moved through the corridors of the Citadel, once a gleaming monument of Varellan craftsmanship, now a ruin of flame and debris. They reached the generator room just as the Drask breached the far wall. The enemy soldiers, towering insectoid creatures with chitinous armor, stormed in, firing plasma bolts. Saren fought like lightning, her spear spinning arcs of blue light. Mason ducked behind the machinery, searching for weak points. He found one, a cracked coolant line. "Mason," Saren called, deflecting a plasma round. "Fall back." But he didn't. He tore open a maintenance panel and rerouted the energy flow through the line, converting the coolant vapor into a supercharged field. The air crackled, the temperature rising in seconds. "What are you doing?" Saren shouted. "Ending this." The improvised surge detonated the power conduits, releasing a pulse of electromagnetic energy that swept through the room, frying Drask armor systems instantly. The invaders convulsed and fell, their weapons sparking uselessly. When the light faded, Mason collapsed again, his right arm burned and shaking from the feedback. Saren rushed to him, kneeling beside his limp form. His breathing was shallow, but his eyes fluttered open. Did it work? She stared at the field of fallen enemies around them. "Yes," she whispered. "You saved us again." Then, almost to herself, "You shouldn't be alive." Mason chuckled weakly. "Guess humans are stubborn." She didn't respond, only lifted his head gently into her lap. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel what her people had long suppressed: fear, admiration, and something dangerously close to tenderness. Later that night, the battle waned. The Drask had withdrawn to regroup. The Citadel still stood, though barely. Mason rested in the infirmary, one arm in a makeshift sling. Saren entered quietly. He smiled faintly when he saw her. "You look better without the helmet." Her fins flickered in surprise. "No one speaks to a Varellan commander that way." "Then maybe no one's told you the truth before," he said softly. She hesitated, the air between them heavy with unspoken things. "When I first met you," she began, "I thought humans were fragile, reckless, foolish. And now—" Her violet eyes met his. "Now I don't know what to think." He laughed lightly, then grimaced from the pain. "That's a start." Outside, the night sky of Kethera 9 shimmered with the remnants of the Aurora shields, waves of blue-green light painting the ruins. Saren looked out the window, her reflection merging with the humans beside her. "My people won't understand you," she said. "They value logic above all else." "Then maybe they'll learn something new." She turned back to him, and for the first time, she smiled. Not out of courtesy, but something real. "You humans," she murmured. "You defy every law we know." "We've had practice," he replied. Ending. The dawn after the siege was quiet. Smoke drifted from the horizon, and the Citadel's walls were still glowing faintly from the strain. The Varellan survivors gathered to honor their fallen and to rebuild. At the ceremony, Saren stood before her people, tall, regal, her armor repaired but her eyes distant. Beside her, Mason wore a bandaged arm and a borrowed Varellan sash. He felt out of place among the towering aliens, but Saren's subtle nod kept him steady. When the council approached, they bowed to Saren, and to him. "Human Mason hail," one elder said formally. "You have our gratitude. Without your unconventional methods, our people would not have survived. Mason rubbed the back of his neck. Glad I could help. Saren watched him, her expression unreadable. When the council dispersed, she turned to him. You're leaving soon, aren't you? He nodded. Earth Command's sending a retrieval ship. They want a full report. And what will you tell them? He smiled faintly. That I met someone who reminded me why humanity still matters. Her eyes softened, a rare sight among her kind. You changed my people's view of your species, Mason. But you also changed mine. He looked at her for a long moment.
Funny.
You changed mine too. For a while, neither spoke. Then, as the retrieval beacon blinked overhead, Saren did something no Varellan queen-in-waiting had ever done before. She extended her hand, a gesture of unity, not command. Mason took it without hesitation. And in that brief moment, surrounded by the rising sun of a world reborn, the alien girl, the commander who once doubted humanity, stared in silence, realizing something she had never known before. Humans didn't just fight. They endured. They believed. And somehow, against all reason, they healed.